Hello, my name is Hutch Olsberg. I'm owner and CEO of Key West Boats. Key West Boats are the best built, safest, best value of boating today. In the next few minutes, you're going to see how my experience with my family, friends, and boating goes into every Key West boat we build today. Key West Boats are leaders and innovators of the boating industry. We have a full line of boats, one of which will fit the needs of you and your family. Now, this is the beginning of Key West Boats. This is where our design starts. This is a plug, and this is what we use to make the form for the molds to build all the Key West boats. We start from wood, Bondo, fiberglass, whatever it takes to make the original shape that we can reproduce the product for. And the quality starts in the design that we start with. The fit, finish, all begins with the tool. So this is a plug, and it's made from wood, and we sand it, shape it to get the exact form that we need. And from this, we can reproduce it with a mold, make a mold, wax that mold, and reproduce other boats off of it. And what we have over here is this is the hull. And we've already made the wooden plug, made the plug, and from that, we've waxed that plug, made the mold, and out of this, we pulled out and made the bottom for the deck, and then built the deck on the top side. So we'll take this hull mold, finish it, wax it, buff it, bring it to a high gloss, because whatever is on this mold will transfer off to the boat. So we want to make sure we have a real high gloss finish with no blemishes in it, so that it'll transfer off and make a perfect boat. This is the beginning of a Key West boat. This is the form, or the mold if you will, that the boat will be made inside of. And it's going through its waxing process where we'll buff, clean, and put a release agent on it so that when we put the gel coat and build the boat, it'll come out of here. The boat will go inside, starting paint first, then the fiberglass, and then it'll be pulled out. And any imperfections that's in this part will be inside the mold, so inside the boat. So we want to make sure that this is as clean and as waxed up and as a good finish as possible. We're here at the first step of manufacturing a Key West boat. We've had our mold, and the mold's waxed, and here he's applying the gel coat. He's going to apply a little extra gel coat in the areas that are hard to spray on. We want to make sure that the gel coat is the exact thickness throughout the whole boat, so some areas he'll need to apply with a brush that are difficult to spray to. The gel coat is the finish on the boat. This is what you get to see. This is the waterproofing on the outside of the fiberglass. And he's putting this gel coat on, and he's got to apply it at the exact right millage to make sure that we'll get the proper weathering of the boat. If you're too thin, you'll get alligation, the gel coat will wear out, and you won't have the waterproofing. If you get it too thick, you'll have stress cracking and problems with weathering later too. So this is the most important step to make sure that the gel coat is put on at the right thickness. This is inside out and backwards. You have to think inside out and backwards. He's putting the paint on first, and then we're going to put the fiberglass on the paint, on the gel coat. What we were just doing, you seen Willie did, is he used this mill gauge, and this checks the millage of the gel coat while it's wet. He depresses this into the gel coat, and these ridges are at different heights, and as the ridge, as the one it touches, that's the amount of thickness that we have in there. So he'll do that on the first coat, make sure he's exactly where he wants to be, come back and put a second coat and check that again to make sure that he's the exact millage that he needs to be. And then when he's finished, we'll go through another QC process to make sure that he's all done his job right and that the boat is perfect before we go to the next step. The next step we're doing here is she's looking for any imperfections in the gel coat. In all the areas where we did our mill check, she's going to repair all those areas. She's going to look for any areas that might be thin, and she's going to go back and back gel those areas so that we get the proper thickness of gel coat. It's real critical that this step be perfect. Here's another step that most boat companies don't do. We take the extra step to soften these radiuses with a fillet putty. This allows that glass to roll over these areas and ensure that you won't have an air bubble and a blemish later. This gel coat, this is the side that you don't see. The side against the mold is the surface that you see, but it's only eggshell thick. We want to make sure that the glass gets tight up against this area. We soften these radiuses that are tight. The glass is kind of hard to stay into. It's another step to ensure that 10 years from down the road, you won't have little blemishes coming back later. We've gel coated and put our filler in, and we're getting ready to do the skin coat on the boat. And when he puts this glass on, this putty that we put in, that'll soften that radius. Make sure that glass gets able to roll down and gets a real tight finish so we won't have an air bubble later, have that eggshell finish get cracked. And it's important that this skin coat be done as soon as the gel coat dries, as soon as that gel coat area is dry enough that you can touch it with your hand, we come on back with this skin coat to make sure that we get a really good chemical bond as well as a mechanical bond. You know, that ensures that we don't have blisters later on. And we'll roll this down tight with these bubble rollers and make sure that the resin and glass and hardener is down tight to that gel coat finish. Remember, the gel coat was the first layer we put on, and it's only eggshell thickness. So this glass has to reinforce it up tight against her. That eggshell finish will crack. Well, here's the skin coat process on the hull. The hull's done inside out, got the mold with the gel coat on it. It's been checked for any imperfections, and now we're putting our first layer of glass on it. Now this is a replacement of what used to be done a hand laying. Just the mats put on with this gun, the resin, glass, hardener all coming out at the same time. When you're putting a chop in there, you don't have to break down the binders of a hand lathe. This is the same material that's done as hand laying, but you just have to make sure you have an operator that can put it on evenly. By putting a chop on, you don't have the binders to break down that you have to do in a hand laying material, and you can get a better resin glass ratio because you're not trying to overwet the mat to break down the binders. What I'm going to do today is talk to you a little bit about some of the materials that we use in the construction of a Key West boat. This is a chop strand mat, and this is what we use as the skin coat in the first layers in laminating a Key West boat. We use a combination of this hand laid and with a chopper gun. It's basically the same material. This is put on dry and then wet out with a resin and a catalyst, and what comes out the chopper gun is put out, same material, but it's put out with the resin and catalyst all one time. So in combination of the hand lay and the chop gives us the best of both worlds. So this is the mat that's used as a primer between each layers. This next material is called a 24-ounce woven, and it's what used for the bulk to give us our strength in the boat. So this is what we use in some hull bottoms and all hull sides. This is kind of this industry standards. Here at Key West Boats, we upgrade to the next step, and this is a 36-ounce woven. This is what we use in the hull bottoms, and we'll use this, and then we'll let this come on up from the sides because the bottom needs more than the sides do. Every layer is put in is overlapped through the center of the boat, so the center is at least twice as thick. Next, in all radiuses and lifting strakes, we'll add this. This is called a biaxial material, and in a corner, we'll have a woven laid over it, and then a combination of a biaxial, and that gives us the strength of the glass going both this direction in the 0 and the 90, and then we have it in a 45, and the 45 gives us strength in all directions. This is just a little wider version. When we have little wider areas we need to use it in. This material is called core mat. It's got little holes all the way through, and it's made to build a bridge between two layers of glass. Gives us stiffness in hull sides and deck sides where we have big flat panels that we want some stiffness in. So this is a core mat. It needs to be wet out with resin and wet out very well. Kind of got a sponge to it, so it needs to have a lot of resin. The next material I'm showing you is two different types of foam. This is a Cledgecell material. It's real flexible, got a lot of tracks cut in it. And this material is what we put on floor surfaces and flat areas that we're replacing plywood with. You know, our goal here is there's absolutely no wood, and in our Key West laminate there's no wood and no water retention and no rot later on. So this material gets bed down into a wet layer chop and a wet layer over top and woven over top, gives you a real stiff panel with a lot of bridge to it. Not a lot of screw retention to it or bolt retention. So areas that we know that we're going to come back, bolt T-tops, bolt cleats, put things that through bolt to, we go to a higher density foam. This foam is much more rigid, much heavier, and we'll use this in areas that need extra reinforcement. Our next step of reinforcing is what we call Pro Board. It's a plastic block, and this has screw retention. Areas that we know that we're going to add a screw in, customer might want to add something later, we'll put this material so that it'll hold screws, glass over that, sandwich in, just like a big washer inside the laminate. In all the transoms, the Key West boats and areas, we'll glass in aluminum plates. Put it inside the laminate. It's in there. You never see it. It's behind the gel coat, inside hidden in, just so displaces loads over a wider area. Next is our transom material. High density foam, material, lightweight. Same thing, has holes all the way through so it can create a bridge. We'll bed this in wet fiberglass, let that dry, put fiberglass over the backside, roll it in. A very strong replacement for plywood. You never have any problem with it rotting or gaining weight with water saturation. So real nice alternative to plywood. It's expensive, it's high tech, it makes for a lighter, better boat, something to be with you a long time. Allows us to use a little bit less horsepower. Makes the package more economical for everybody. This is where we will separate the part from the mold. We've done the wax, the gel coat, the skin coat, all the different layups and laminates and cores and reinforcing. And now this is the inner liner of the deck area, and we pull it up from 2 pivot points, and then it releases from that wax, and will come off of it, and then it'll have the finish underneath that you need. So go ahead and lift it off. It'll separate right here from this flange area. All right, well here's it separated. Here's the gel coat we put on first. The finish is just as nice as what the mold surface is. All the non-skid patterns have transferred off, and the non-skid will be on side of there. So the gel coat, the skin coat, the fillets we put in, the layup, all gives us this part. This transferred right off of the mold. So any imperfections that may have been in the mold will transfer off on the part. This part's just freshly been pulled out of the mold. All the gloss is there. It's smooth. Any non-skid finishes that were there, the gel coat's filled those non-skid finishes, and it has a texture that we want. It gives you a good surface to grip your feet on, but it's also smooth enough that it'll clean up and give you good clean surfaces. So this is a part that's ready to go through the trimming process, and it'll go through the inspection process, and then it'll move over to the assembly shop for assembly. I want to talk to you today about the stringer system that Key West boats put in. A stringer system is to support the backbone of the boat. This is what years ago was done in wood and glassed over, and this is what Key West boats does. Here's one of our stringers after it's been broken out the mold. It's a lightweight grid. It's pretty lightweight like this, but as you get it into the mold, the part glassed in, foam filled, it adds for a lot of rigidity. Gives us both flotation and a lot of strength. Well, this is them putting the stringer system in. The foam transom's already been glassed in, and what they'll do now is they'll glass that backside that transom in and drop this stringer system grid in. The hoses will be in already through the middle for the pull drain pipes through. This will get glassed in all the way around. It's an engineered, every design, every shape fits the bottom of the hull. Every place we need a drain, every place for a gas tank lid. Wires run through for the T-top, all the wires run through for the wiring of the boat, the bilge pump wires, battery perches, everything is tooled in and engineered in this one fiberglass part to fit. Here's the one of the final steps as we're putting the stringer system in. That the foam system here, this grid system is glassed in all the way around, and it's hollow. And what he's doing now is he's going to go ahead and inject foam into it. Go ahead, Curtis. And we're going to inject foam as a 2-part A and B unit. It'll go all the way to the bottom of the stringer, and it'll froth and foam fill all the way from the bottom all the way to the top. So we'll inject this stringer system till it's a rigid part. It sure does add to the strength of the boat and gives us a lot of flotation. And over these holes, when we put the top deck on, we'll glass over all those holes with a putty that keeps it watertight. Even though this boat's over 20 foot and not required to have flotation in it, this is added flotation. This is what gives it its strength and a real backbone so it can last for a lifetime. This is a step that Key West boats that I'm particularly proud of. We use these router fixtures to cut all of our holes in our decks. We'll screw this down, use this router to follow this template, and it'll cut it out, make a perfect cutout. These holes that are in this fixture line up perfectly with the lid or the hatch that we're putting on. So if you need to replace one 2, 3, 4 years down the road, you can do it. Here you can see in this cutout we cut out the superior construction that Key West boats have, all the hard work we put in. Here's the gel coat. You know, it's eggshell thickness. It's exactly perfect. Has a non-skid pattern already on it, the gloss. The layers of fiberglass we put on underneath the core. Here's the wood replacement that we use. This is the PVC foam that we put in to replace the wood. and the glass on the backside, the Sandwich construction. This is one of the things that makes Key West boats superior to other boats. We're proud of this. The next step here is where we're putting the hardware on the boat. We've already cut the holes using the routers and the hole saws, and now we're assembling the components to the deck. Here's a pop-up cleat that we put on. These are the lids that we use the drill fixtures for. All the holes lined up perfectly, and it's a perfect fit every time. And anywhere we can through bolt things through at this point, that's where we'll through bolt things on. So do as much of the rigging on the deck now as we can. Get it pre-rigged so it can go on top of the hull. So this is the deck that will set on top of the hull like a shoebox. The deck will sit over the top of the hull and be fastened all the way around. Well, here's where things literally come together. Here's where the deck area we've been talking about and the hull area will come together. The deck will come down and it'll fit over like a shoebox. On top of the stringer, we'll put a bead of putty, put down on top of the stringer, seals all the holes where we put in the foam, and it'll make a perfect fit between the top and the bottom, the deck and the hull. As it comes together, that putty will squish down and make a perfect bond in between. This area here will come down and fit over the top of this area and be fastened all the way around and sealed with 5200 so there's not a leak. Here's something that's hidden in a Key West boat that just looking at it you wouldn't know was there. Here's aluminum plate that we glass into the laminate. It's between the gel coat and the layers of glass, and this is the reinforcement for your engine bolt holes. A lot of companies will put it on the front side so you can see it, but we do both. This will be here on the back side, spreads the load of those engines over this foam transom in a wider area. Gives you a lot of support, keeps your engine solid. Here at Key West, anywhere possible, we use through bolts. We use 3/16 bolts and stainless steel hardware, and he'll through bolt these cleats and hardware on using 3/16 bolts. We use large fender washers and aircraft style nuts. So, they have nylon washers inside, lock washers inside, so it won't loosen up later. So he'll use the 3/16 cleat, the urethane sealer with a backing washer and a nut, and it's also, the boat is reinforced with a backing plate so that it'll be reinforced as fiberglass. You won't ever have a problem with your hardware pulling out. All through the process, I talked to you about quality, but here's some of our quality assurance. This paperwork follows this boat from the start to the finish, and we pull the serial number to start shooting the boat. We'll put on the gel coat, the resin, the batch number it was made from, and track the quality control throughout the whole plant. If a customer calls us back 3, 4, 5 years down the road, we'll keep having the history and the data of every manufacturer, of every product, and all the work that was done on the boat and who done it through the process. Sometimes this looks a little sloppy being able to do it with just a couple trowels, but we found this to be the most effective way to get the putty on. We put a generous amount on it, let it sit down, let the excess come off, and then clean it off. But we want to make sure that this bond is perfect, that it's a solid bond between this hull and deck and this transom area where this engine's going to bolt through. Here's where he's sealing with 5200 the joint between the hull and deck to make sure no water intrusion gets in the hull. As he's cleaning this seal up, this isn't the only seal that we have. As this shoebox fit here, sealed up underneath, the foam that we're going to inject inside of this hull will come up through. We have a barrier to keep it from sticking to this part, but the foam will come up and adhere. This whole area right here will glue it all together, come up in and seal behind it, and it's a closed cell flotation, so it glues this hull and deck joint together and gives us a really good seal so we don't have any problem with water getting in. And covering this joint will be a rub rail, and that rub rail will be sealed also to make sure that no water gets into this joint. So it's just the perfect way to seal it. Yeah, here we are. We're starting to look like a boat now. The hull and deck has come together. The putty is hard, and we're going to start to put all the accessories and rigging and make the boat specific to the dealer. The order form is here with the boat, and we'll fill it out. The employees know what they're supposed to do, and we'll get this boat built specifically for the customer with all the accessories he needs. Here's one thing that should make everybody a whole lot more comfortable. Key West Boats has gone all through its construction phases. We've started customizing this boat for the dealer or the consumer. Now what we've done with all its structure intact of the boat here, now we're foam filling this boat. We've already foam filled the stringer, put some in the hull, but now we've gone in and put a liquid foam that's run all the way to the bottom on the outside of that stringer, and it's free rising now, and it's rising all the way up, and it's going to come all the way up and glue this whole joint together through this rod holder, and then we'll put this rod holder down in place, fasten it in place, nip off the drain tube so any water that comes in and gets in this rod holder can get its way out all the way to the build so the boat doesn't gain weight later. But you know, everything's closed cell flotation, but we always want to make sure, keep in mind here at Key West Boats, we find place for water to make its way back to the bilge so the boat doesn't gain weight. Here at this stage of the boat, it's getting more custom to the dealer. Now we're putting the console in, we're putting the motor pre-rig in, the steering, the gauges, the seating inside, the rubber rail is put in place. This is an extra seal over the top of this joint we put in, and from this point on, it'll get the rigging process finished, and then it'll go through our QC department and checked over, buffed, waxed, going through the final QC process in assembly. Then we'll go to rigging motors. We are getting close to the end of the production of our boat. We've gone through all of our steps of the lamination and assembly. We've gone through its quality assurance program to make sure everything is built right, that we're not going to have any issues. Now it's time to put the motor on, and it's a dealer's motor of choice, and we'll put the motor on, check all the gauges, check all the instrumentation, go through one more quality control program, put its final coat of wax on the boat. Every boat that leaves Key West Boats gets a coat of wax on it. We'll put its final coat of wax on it and get it prepared for shipping. Here's the final step. We've built a quality Key West boat, get loaded on the truck, sent to your dealer, and then we'll come straight to you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. After seeing this, I hope you'll agree that Key West Boats is the best built and best value in boating today. But more importantly, I think Key West Boats are the safest boats built for you and your family.